Hello everyone, I'm Freaky and welcome to the video. Okay, I just want to say something to everybody now. There's a video made by Count Dankula and he talks about the Hays Code. And the Hays Code is basically about how old Hollywood would put in rules saying that, oh, you can't do this and you can't do that. Like for example, back in the day, when a couple was married and they was in their rooms, they would have two beds, like small two beds, instead of sharing the same bed. And they would show this in movies and series back in the day. Don't ask me why, that was just the way it was. There was also no lustful kissing. There was no interracial relationships. And the American flag should always be used in a very respectful way all the time. And there was no glamorizing criminals. Like, if somebody does anything bad, then that person should be seen as bad all the time. There can't be anything in the grey area. It just has to be a black and white thing in terms of morals and values. Like, if somebody was to crack open a safe and he's stealing the money, and regardless of the reason as to why this person is stealing money from the safe, that person would always be seen as the bad guy, even if it's for a good cause. The criminal can never ever be seen as sympathetic, and there should always be a crystal clear right and wrong. There was just no grey area. It was just, if you do something bad, then you should get your comeuppance. And the good guy should always be seen as honourable, good, and all that stuff. I mean, to be fair, I do like that one, to a degree. You know, if somebody does anything bad, like robbing somebody, then that person shouldn't be seen in a glamorous light or a sympathetic light. Like, if this person does bad, then he's the bad guy. And yes, I know, there are those times when somebody does something bad for the greater good, like stealing some food from a store in order to feed somebody's starving family. I mean, yes, don't get me wrong, there are those times when something like that is completely understandable, but stealing is still wrong. But yeah, I'm not going to be talking about this today, about what's right and what's wrong when it comes to this subject. Anyways, there would also be other things like, oh, priests and nuns and clergymen should be portrayed as honourable and good. And it was all to prevent the lack of respect towards the church. Again, if you guys haven't seen that video that was made by Count Dankula, please go and check it out and you'll understand what I'm trying to say. Like, seriously, that video is very, very interesting. But anyways, yes, the Hays Code was basically about rules that Hollywood put into place back in the day, so people wouldn't be corrupted into thinking that doing certain things would be okay, like sympathising with criminals and stuff like that. But you know what, I am so glad that most of these rules from the Hays Code is gone. I mean, don't get me wrong, there is a few of the Hays Code rules that I do miss, like no glamorizing criminals. I mean, yeah, sure, you're going to have that crystal clear right and wrong, and you're going to have things that are in the grey, or things that's complicated. But you know what, sometimes I do wish we can just go back to the crystal clear right and wrong, sometimes. And sometimes we have a story that's in a grey area, like things are very, very complicated, like the story about a man stealing from a store so he can feed his family. So I don't actually mind this. In my opinion, I think they should bring that back, like good versus evil sometimes, and we have a grey area sometimes in a story. I mean, come on, who misses the good versus evil or good versus bad in a story? Like, if somebody does something bad, then that person should be seen as the bad guy. But yeah, anyways, I'm getting off track, and I highly recommend you guys go and check out what the Hays Code is all about. And there are like loads of other rules of what they did back in the day, from things that wasn't allowed back in the day to what we see now today. Back in the day, it was taboo, but today, it's okay. And you know what? Some of these Hays rules do seem a bit silly, like no silhouettes of nudity or white people being treated as slaves. Now, when it comes to today's rules of what we can and can't see, when it comes to our ratings, today, it's much more complicated than it used to be. Like horrors back in the day, like Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, like if any guts or blood or somebody killing or showing sex scenes or somebody's nude, it would usually be an 18 or an R-rated. But if we was to see anything that's controversial or somebody says anything inappropriate like the F word or the B word or something like that, it would be a 15. Or if it has no swearing or sex or blood or anything like that, like for example a nice clean cartoon, it would usually be a U or a PG depending. Like, if you've seen Western media, you know exactly what certain people can see and can't see. You guys know what I'm trying to say. But you know what, I think these days certain things have gone, too lax. Like, they're allowing certain people to do and show certain things within movies. Like, remember that movie Cuties? I mean, my god, that movie shouldn't even been freaking created. And you know what, I do agree that certain people shouldn't be allowed to see certain things until they're at a certain age, regardless of what the media it is, like books, games, movies, series, etc, etc. Things are just becoming way too lax when it comes to rating movies these days. It's just freaking wrong, dude. Anyways, depending on the country, other countries have rules that they follow when it comes to their media. Like in China, you're not allowed to show anything to do with time travel, or you're not allowed to show anything negative towards the Chinese government. You know, that sort of stuff. Again, it all depends on the country and what the government of those countries want and don't want. I mean, heck, in China, you don't even see black people on movie posters or on DVD covers. Reason? I don't know. Maybe it's because they're racist, I don't know. But like I said, it all depends on what the censorships of those countries want and don't want. And it isn't just countries, but it could be a group of people who says, oh, we don't like this movie and it should be banned. Like the movie Muhammad, the Last Prophet. And there was loads of Muslims saying that, oh, you can't show these people, it's against our religion, blah, 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 blah. You know, something like that. You're going to have people who is against the movie, but the government doesn't seem to mind it. Either how big or small the group is. They'll say, oh, this movie should be banned, or oh, it's offensive, blah, 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 blah. You know, that sort of thing. Or in some countries, you're not allowed to show LGBTQ stuff within movies and series. And it's usually done by the government and the people who says, oh, we don't want this in our movies and series and so on. So it's either based off the government or it's based off the people who says, oh, we want this movie banned or something like that. But the government doesn't seem to mind it. Either because it was too offensive or something like that. But sometimes in movies, particularly in the West, we always want a story to go our way. And listen, I'm not talking about like Hays rules or what the government wants to show you or something like that. I'm talking about movies that does and doesn't follow your moral compass. Or a movie shows you things that you don't want to see, but the movie was okay with the government and the mass amounts of people. To an extent. Okay, let me explain. When you see a movie, you always want things to go your way. You want things to follow your moral compass. And the people that you don't like deserve to die, and the people that you like deserves to live. And the majority of people wants this. They want the people that they don't like to get their just dessert, and the people that they like gets that happily ever after in the end. And that's what most people want. And that's usually the formula that people always want to follow. But you know what? I think that's boring. In my opinion, I think people should be challenged, and people shouldn't be given everything and shown things that they want to see. Like, what if the person that you didn't like lived in the end, but the person that you liked died? Or what if there was a couple that you liked in the movie, but they didn't end up together in the end, and the woman or the guy got with somebody else that you didn't see coming, or they got with somebody that you didn't want them to get with? Or what about if an innocent person died in the end, and all the people that wronged this person had a happily ever after? Or a person framed an innocent person, and that person had an happily ever after at the end? And also, people have this idea of karma. Like, if a bad person does like loads of bad things, karma comes to bite them in the ass at the end of the story. And that's what most people believe, that karma will come and bite you in the ass. And that's what they want to see within movies and series and games and so on. That, oh, you do bad? Well, in the end, you're going to get your karma. But sometimes in life, if not most of the time, that doesn't happen. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. There are 2 videos that I made ages ago, and I want you guys to go and check out those 2 videos. Number 1, you can't have a story go your way. And number 2, you know what ticks me off? People who go nuts because a story doesn't go their way. I'll leave a link in the description box below to those 2 videos. Those 2 videos will explain what I'm trying to say, and then as soon as you watch them, come back, watch me talk about what I'm going to say. So anyways, yes, basically, we've always wanted a story to go our way, and we wanted certain things to happen, and we wanted certain people to live, we wanted some people to get together, and we all wanted that happily ever after in the end. Every person wants this in a story, because it makes them feel good inside, because it follows their ideals. It makes us feel better that karma comes to the bad guy, and the people that we like gets the happily ever after in the end. Basically, we've always wanted things to go our way. But if you guys seen those 2 videos of what I suggested you to go and watch, you can't have a story go your way, and people go nuts because the story doesn't go their way. You know what I'm talking about. We always want things to go our way within a story. But you know what I have to say about that? I say we should be challenged when it comes to storytelling. Like, things can't always go our way, or oh, sometimes you're not going to have that happily ever after in the end, or oh, sometimes you're not going to be able to save everybody, or oh, you're not going to be able to get whatever you want. And you know what? I think that's a great lesson for people, that you can't always have your own way, and not everybody's going to be pure good and pure bad. I mean, sometimes the main character can be an asshole, and he doesn't learn anything, but he gets a happy ending in the end anyways. Or if you're a good person, and you've lived a horrible life, well, all the bad guys got their happily ever after in the end, and you didn't, you're going to feel really awful for that character because of how they ended up. So yeah, you guys basically know what I'm trying to say. I just wanted to say all this before I went into the main reason as to why I made this video. And the main reason why I made this video is so we can talk about the thing that's been bothering me for a very long time, and something that needs to come into light. And I want you guys to really think about what I'm about to say, because I'm not going to have all the answers, I'm not going to know every single thing, and maybe in this video I might be wrong. So you guys will have to go out and look it up for yourselves. But the main reason as to why I made this video is so we can talk about Japan and its censorship, either with its live action or its anime, manga, games, etc, etc. Now, remember when I said that we always want things to go our way in a story, and how we wish karma would come in the end for the bad guy, and things we want to see and don't want to see? Well, Japan also has that too. Now, when it comes comes to the West, we're always shown in media how terrible white people are, or how terrible the West is in the past, and so on and so on. You know, fighting other people, slavery, blah 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 blah. But when it comes to Japan, they never show anything negative when it comes to Japan. And yes, I know for a fact that loads of countries do this, that they don't show the negative of what their countries do. But I want to concentrate on Japan for certain reasons. For you see, when it comes to anime, I love the classic anime, and I've been a big fan of the classic anime before 2016 and below. And after that, I stopped watching anime altogether after 2015. And trust me, I saw a lot of anime back in my day. And after so many years, I started to connect the dots with something when it came to anime. Like, we all know that anime is either based off a book, a manga, a novel, a game, and depending on the time that the anime is going to come out, like if it's around 9 o'clock or 11 o'clock, they'll show very violent anime or fan service anime. So yeah, Japan basically has the same ideals when it comes to the West. You can't show violent and gruesome things for teenagers. Like if you see anything that's too sexualized or is too gruesome in a manga, they will censor it in the anime, because you know, certain shows are going to be for kids, certain shows are going to be for teens and adults, and so on and so on. And also, like Japan, they also believe in karma too. That if you do anything bad, then karma is going to get you. And they like to show certain things and not to show certain things. And I'm going to be talking about those things that the Japanese doesn't like to show, or is allowed to show. So, all that's said and done, let's go. And just to let you guys know, this was the main reason as to why I made this video, about me talking about Japan and its own version of the Hays Code. Okay, technically it doesn't have a Hays Code, but when it comes to Japan, I have noticed a lot of things when it comes to its own media. Like for example, to my fellow anime fans, and to people who like Japan in general, let me ask you this. When was the last time you guys saw the Japanese emperor in any anime ever? Because remember, Japan has a monarchy. In fact, I think most people would forget that they do have a monarchy. But when was the last time you ever saw the Japanese emperor or any of the royal family in any anime ever? I mean, all my time of watching anime, I have never ever seen any of the Japanese royal family in any anime ever. Now, I've been hearing rumours saying that you can't show the Japanese royal family in any piece of media in Japan. Now, I'm not sure how true that is, but if you guys really think about it, when was the last time you guys saw the Japanese royal family in any manga or any anime? But saying that, I have seen other monarchies within anime, particularly the British royal family. I saw it in Code Geass, even though they're fictional. I saw it in Black Butler. I mean, they'll take the piss out of our monarchy, but they'll never do satire or they'll do anything that'll make their monarchy look bad. I mean, heck, I've seen British characters within anime that looks like either the bad guys or antagonists, or like some look like the losers, like in the series Italia, where they make fun of Britain. I mean, yeah, sure, don't get me wrong, they make fun of every country, but Japan has to be the cool one when it comes to Italia. I mean, for crying out loud, Italy, Germany, and Japan is called the friggin' Axis of crying out loud. Those three are the main characters of the series. Well, Italy is the main character, but Japan and Germany are co-protagonists. There was the series Read or Die, where again the British are the bad guys. And recently we had that new series called Gamma Rebirth or something, and they made fun of the Americans, showing them as bullies. My point is, when was the last time you ever saw a Japanese character ever be horrible to other races, simply because they were non-Japanese? And I'm talking about main protagonists who was mean to other races that wasn't Japanese, because I certainly can't recall any anime that had a protagonist that was mean to other races in anime. I mean, I definitely haven't seen any, and I'm talking about a Japanese character in modern day Japan. And I know some people are going to say, oh, but Freaky, why would you want to see a Japanese character be mean to other non-Japanese? Well, it's not the fact that I want to see, it's just the fact when it comes to Japanese characters, they're all just nice characters. I'm not like saying like, oh, they're nice characters, but more, they're like accepting. We rarely see any racist, xenophobic Japanese. Like, when was the last time you ever saw a Japanese character, or characters that's supposedly a representation of Japanese? You know, like the black hair, the dark eyes. Like, when has Japan ever been the bad guy within their own medias when it comes to them being racist to other people? You rarely do, but I have seen other races within anime or manga be racist to Japanese, or people with blonde hair, or people that was foreign to them be racist to other races. Usually it would be the non-Japanese who is the more racist one, but the Japanese characters are usually not racist. But the thing is, Japan is a xenophobic country. I mean, yeah, they don't go in guns blazing, shouting, no more foreigners, and all that stuff. But they keep their racism down to a very low level. Some Asian countries can be very racist. But again, we don't see Japanese characters be racist like the main ones, but we do see racist non-Japanese characters, or oh, they're just the bad guys. Like in Code Geass, you have the Britannians, which is a take on Britain and the United States. But in real life, the Japanese were heartless monsters when it comes to their history, like colonizing, like the Philippines, Indonesia, Korea, China, and even having comfort girls from most places. And when it comes to World War II, I mean, oh my god, these guys make the Yahtzees look like freaking Boy Scouts in comparison. And yeah, you guys have probably heard me say this over and over and over, but when it comes to this time of the Japanese Empire, where they colonized and went to war in World War II, and all the atrocities that they did, you do not hear or see a peep of all the horrible stuff that they did in World War II or the places that they colonized in any piece of media ever, including anime. I mean, yeah, I know there's the movie Barefoot Gen and Grave of the Fireflies. Those two movies and one of the series that I can't remember the title of also did a take on World War II, but it was that one series and another series where it just briefly mentions World War II. The first one is Ghost Hunt, and there was this character that was Chinese in this series. By the way, Ghost Hunt is a really good anime, I highly recommend it. Anyways, there is a character who is Chinese in this series, and he tells the main character, which is a female, who is also Japanese, and the Chinese guy says, oh, he hates the Japanese because what they did in China, and the main female says, you should hate me as an individual, not because of me being Japanese. Live in the present and forget about the past. Yeah, good luck on that, because everybody always brings up the past all the time these days. Or there was Grave of the Fireflies, where we see two characters go through hardships because of the war. Their mum's gone, their father's gone, and their aunt treats them like crap. And spoilers, in the end, they just die. And you know what? This movie was really, really sad. And when it comes to Barefoot Gen, in the first movie we concentrate on three characters, Gen, his mother, and his adopted brother. But in the beginning, we see the family of Gen going about their day, struggling to get by, and then the bomb drops. And it was freaking horrifying, because once that bomb dropped, it almost turned into a zombie flick. Loads of people were dying, the main character's family died, and so many horrible things was happening to poor Gen and his family. Now listen, I'm going to say this. Of course, there is going to be tragedy when it comes to war. There's going to be some people who's going to make films about how they try to stop those evil Nazis from taking over the world. And you're going to have some people making movies about how the Americans stopped the Japanese, or the Chinese making movies about how terrible the Japanese was, or how Britain went about the war. And of course, you're going to have the Germans making a movie about the war. And of course, you're going to have Japanese who will make films about the war. Again, like Barefoot Gen and Grave of the Fireflies. But the thing is, we don't see anything about soldiers going into the battlefield and starts fighting people, but instead we see all these sad things that's happening in Barefoot Gen and Grave of the Fireflies, like the consequences of war and how people are caught up in it. I mean, heck, when you see Barefoot Gen and they drop the bomb and you see all these things that's the consequence of the bomb, it makes you hate the Americans of what they did to Japan. People dying, people bursting into flames, like all these atrocities happen because of those evil Americans and their bomb. And also, if you guys was to look this up, look up videos about Japanese people who was asked as to why the Americans dropped the bombs on Japan. And some of the Japanese would say, oh, well, we don't know. And some say, well, oh, it was because the Americans are racist. The majority of the Japanese don't know as to why the Americans dropped the bombs on them. It's either they don't know, or it was because they were told that the Americans were racist. To this day, the Japanese were never taught about the horrific things they did in the past, during the time of the Japanese Empire, like taking over Indonesia, the Philippines, Korea, and all the stuff they did in China. Nobody in Japan knows any of the horrible history that the Japanese did in the past. And I'm talking about the Japanese citizens. In fact, I think it actually might be illegal to talk about of what the Japanese Empire did in the past. But there was this movie called John Rabe, and this tells the story about a Nazi soldier who went over to China to see how the Japanese were doing. And when John Rabe got there, he could see all the horrible things that the Japanese were doing to the Chinese. And the film shows us of all the horrible stuff that the Japanese were doing to the Chinese. And it isn't just this movie, but there's like loads of movies like this of what the Japanese did during World War II. Anyways, when this film, John Rabe, was shown in Japan, the Japanese nationalists absolutely despised this film, saying that, oh, none of these atrocities ever happened. This was all made up. It's propaganda. We never did any of that. Now, even though I know this is just a movie, but there actually was a person called John Rabe, and he did save a lot of Chinese from the Japanese. And even though we weren't there, and were told this is just a movie, there is photo evidence and witnesses as to what the Japanese did in the past. I won't say it here, but I want you guys to go and check out the Rape of Nanking and Unit 731. And also, please look up the colonizing that the Japanese did. Anyways, when it comes to these sort of movies showing what certain people did to certain people, there is truth to them because it historically happened. And you're going to have people who will 100% deny anything that really happened of what their people did, like Turkey and the Armenian genocide. Yes, you're going to have people who will deny anything that they did bad in the past. And that's one of the things that really ticks me off. But sometimes you're going to have movies who will try to tell a story about history, and those people who's making the movie will romanticize it and make it historically inaccurate just so they could play on your emotions, like the movie Mel Gibson's Braveheart. Now, this movie is completely historically inaccurate. This movie tries to make you root for the Scots, and it depicts them as evil monsters that colonised Scotland. But, a matter of fact, the Scots, and specifically William Wallace, was an evil man. He would take his forces and go to the nearest English villages and kill the villagers. William Wallace even killed children and chopped off their heads. But do you see any of that in the movie? No, of course you don't. Because Mel Gibson has a hatred towards the English, and they wanted to make it as anti-English as they could and make it pro-Scottish as they could. So really, Braveheart is a barefaced lie. It's just there to mess with your emotions and mess with your intellect, thinking that, oh, this really happened in the past with the Scots and the English. Like, the English were these evil monsters that wanted to take over Scotland. Again, this movie is all a lie, just like the movie 300 and a few other films. And that's exactly what Barefoot Gen and Grave of the Fireflies is there for. They're just there to gain your sympathies, and it's just there to make you feel sorry for those poor Japanese that was affected because of what the Americans did in the past. But we never ever see anything evil of what the Japanese did in any Japanese media ever. And anything that was foreign made is either pushed aside and says, oh, it's propaganda, or they just simply deny it. And when it comes to Braveheart, yes, the fight between Scotland and England did happen, but it was historically inaccurate, and it was just there to pander to people and make the English look like the bad guys. It's the same with The Woman King. That movie was also historically inaccurate. I'm not going to go into that, but you'll guys have to go and check out for yourselves as to why it's historically inaccurate. The Woman King. What I'm trying to say is, when it comes to media, people are going to use media to get what they want, like The Woman King, or Braveheart, or Barefoot Gen, or Grave of the Fireflies. They're just there to play on your emotions and make you feel sorry for the protagonists. Like, oh, we're supposed to feel sorry for those poor Scots, or oh, we have to feel sorry for these poor black people in Africa, or oh, we're supposed to feel sorry for these poor Japanese. And that's one of the things that I cannot stand. You're going to have people who play on people's emotions while denying all the horrible stuff that they did in the past. And that's the thing I hate about people using history and rewriting it so it'll make certain people look like the good guys or the bad guys. And we're supposed to feel sorry for these certain people. Like in the anime Shiki, there's a difference between the anime and the manga. In the anime, there are these vampires trying to take over this village, and in the anime makes the humans look like the innocent victims that does no wrong, and they're right to kill all the Shiki because of what they did. But in the manga makes the humans look worse. Like, they want everything to be perfect within the village, and they even threaten the main monk of the village. And there's this big fellow with a white beard. In the anime, he does this big massive speech near the end, saying, oh, everyone's welcome here as long as you follow the rules of the village. But in the manga, he is a complete monster, and he doesn't do that speech. He's just a right freaking monster. And I know what they're trying to do here. In the anime, they're trying to have this right and wrong sort of thing, where the humans were the sad victims, but in the manga, the humans were just as bad as the vampires. Now, you can disagree with me if you want to, and some people say, oh, well, the Shiki deserved it. What I'm trying to say is, when it comes to novels and manga and anime, the medias are changing all the time, just to fit a narrative. Because when it comes to anime, they're always changing things, so certain things can't be shown on TV. And I'm not talking about gore and sex and all that stuff, but I'm talking about certain things that they don't want to show a Japanese audience. Like in Shiki, they don't want the humans to be as bad as a Shiki, but instead, they're going to be the morally righteous. They have the right to revenge, and they have this big massive speech at the end saying, oh, everyone's welcome, but you came in and destroyed everything. But in the manga, the humans were also assholes. Okay, maybe this isn't the best example of what I'm trying to say, but there is this one series called Rurouni Kenshin, and this series is a good example of what I'm trying to say. I'm not going to go through the entire series, I'm only going to talk about certain parts within the series. Now, before I get into that, there is one thing I want to say. I haven't seen the full series of Rurouni Kenshin. I've only ever seen the OVA, Samurai X, which I think is a follow its own storyline, except it's its own story. It follows the manga, but not really. I don't know how to describe it, but the OVA follows the storyline of his first love, Tomie, and this is like deep in Kenshin's past. But you know what, hold on, I'll just do a summary. I haven't read the manga other than the ending, and I haven't watched the main series yet, but I did watch Samurai X, and in Samurai X, there's a storyline where Kenshin kills this person that was supposed to be married to a woman named Tomie, and Tomie is grieving over the death of her fiancé that Kenshin killed, and Tomie wants to get revenge on Kenshin, and so she pretends to be in love with him, and over time she does fall in love with him, and he falls in love with her. But Tomie also has a little brother, whose name is, I think I'm going to butcher this, Enshi, and in the beginning, Tomie and Enshi and a group of other people devises this plan to kill Kenshin, but over time Tomie falls in love with Kenshin, and she goes to try and stop the assassination of Kenshin, and Kenshin finds out that Tomie wanted to kill him, and Kenshin thinks Tomie didn't love her, and in distraught, he starts killing people who was after him. And when Kenshin was about to be killed, Tomie jumped in front of Kenshin's sword, and he accidentally kills Tomie, proving that she genuinely loved him. But Enshi saw what Kenshin did to his sister. He saw Kenshin kill his sister, and from that day forward, Enshi, again, I do apologise if I'm pronouncing these names wrong, swore one day that he would kill Kenshin, and then years later, in the final arc of the manga, Enshin comes back and he wants Kenshin to suffer for what he did to his sister, and so he fooled Kenshin into thinking that he killed Kenshin's female friend, and Kenshin fell into deep depression, and he was freaking out of it. But in actuality, Enshi didn't kill his female friend, but instead it was a doll or a dummy or something that was in the likeness of his female friend. And Kenshin's other friends wanted revenge on Enshin because they think he killed their female companion, but Kenshin doesn't care. He's just freaking out of it. And then one thing leads to another, and everybody finds out that the female companion is still alive, and Kenshin and his companions go to try and find Enshi and the female companion, and the companions demand where the female companion is, and it's confirmed that she's still alive, and then Kenshin and Enshi have this final fight, and Enshin saves the female companion, and then he leaves with the police, and Enshin doesn't want to kill Kenshin anymore for some reason. Now, if you guys want to go and check out the manga just to see what I'm talking about, please do. And when it comes to this part of the manga or the story, this part was never animated in the main series, and they replaced that saga of the manga with all new material. If you're a Rurouni Kenshin fan, you know what I'm talking about. Basically, this whole thing with Enshi and him wanting revenge was never animated in the main series, but it was animated in the OVA, but not exactly to what it was in the manga. But let me explain something first. Supposedly, from what I've researched, apparently the only reason that they didn't want to animate the last arc of Rurouni Kenshin from the manga is because supposedly it was too dark for the demographic that shonen manga was given, the demographic of people that watches or read Rurouni Kenshin. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, hold on, how the heck was it just too dark? I mean, Death Note was freaking dark. Full Metal Alchemist had dark moments. But for some reason, the last arc of the manga was just too dark. I mean, seriously? And you know what? I don't believe that this was the truth as to why they didn't want to make the last arc. I think it was something else. I believe it was another reason as to why they didn't want to make the last arc. And that thing was, it was a complicated situation. Now, some of you are probably thinking, hold on, Freaky, what the hell are you talking about? Well, think about this. When it comes to the majority of anime and manga, especially for teen manga and anime, they always try to make it a crystal clear right and wrong, and they always try to have the bad guy get his comeuppance, and the good guy wins in the end, either through other characters or it was karma. So you could say that Japan also has an ace code. So if you're a bad guy, you're going to get your karma in the end, and the ace code also follows that formula, that if somebody does something wrong, they're going to have their comeuppance in the end, and you can't glamorize bad things. And I think that's the reason why they didn't animate the last arc of the manga. It's because it's too complicated, and the reason why it's too complicated is because Rurouni Kenshin's brother-in-law, Enshi, again, I do apologize if I pronounced that wrong, Enshi is justified on taking the life of Kenshin, because if it wasn't for him, Tomie would be still alive, and Enshin also went through a lot of hardships because of him. Kenshin ruined his life and took away somebody that he loved. And listen, we all know it was an accident, and Kenshin didn't mean to kill her. And there's one other thing too. We have been with Kenshin since the very beginning of his story, and we know he's not a bad person, and he doesn't want to kill people. I mean, heck, it even hurts him every time he does kill people, and the audience love him. He has many friends that will support him. We've been through his adventures since the beginning. We've seen him laugh, we've seen him cry, we've seen him do all these great things. Like, he's the guy that you want to see come through in the end. And it's like I said earlier, he's the good guy, and everybody else is the bad guy. But when it comes to Enshi, he's not really a bad guy. He's somebody who has been wronged because of Kenshin. Again, he ruined his life, he went through hardships, and he took away his sister. Now the thing is, we don't want Kenshin to die. We want him to win. We know he's a good person. And also, if you guys really think about it, Enshi isn't really a bad person either. He's just somebody who got hurt because of the main character. Enshi isn't that morally grey, where he does bad things for the greater good. In a way, he's kind of like the Punisher from Marvel. Somebody took away his loved ones, and now he wants revenge on the people who took away his family. And that's what Inshin is. Inshin is like the Punisher from Marvel. I mean, besides from kidnapping the female companion, I mean, like, what other bad things has he done? If it wasn't for Kenshin, then he wouldn't have ended up the way he did. So if you really think about it, if we followed Inshin's story instead of Kenshin, and we knew nothing about Kenshin, and you felt the anger of what Inshin felt, you would want him to take revenge on Kenshin. And that's exactly why they didn't want to animate the last arc of the manga. Now, I know there's going to be some people out there that's going to say, oh, come on, Freak, you're crazy. You're overthinking things. Oh yeah? Well, in the OVA, they actually do have Enshi and Kenshin fight in the OVA of Samurai X. But there is a lot of differences. Enshin just kidnaps the female companion, and Kenshin's companions aren't there with him, and when Kenshin does confront his brother-in-law, instead of fighting, Kenshin just bows his head saying, I'm really sorry what I did to you. And when Enshin was about to finish Kenshin off, the female companion jumps and protects Kenshin, and Enshin sees the ghost of his sister within the female companion, and Inshin just walks away. I mean, heck, Kenshin was even going to let Inshin take his life because of what he did to his sister. But because of some contrived bullcrap, like, oh, he sees the ghost of his sister and, oh, I was wrong, blah blah blah. Everything is different in this OVA compared to what was in the manga. And that was one of the reasons as to why. In my opinion, I think they didn't want to make the last arc of the manga because of this reason, because of the confusing and complicated situation that this arc gives. Now, to some of you who think I'm crazy, let's have a look at the series, The Rise of the Shield Hero or something. Okay, basically there was this character called Melty, and he made the main character's life living hell. She does some bad stuff, she's arrested for it, and both the anime and the manga are completely different. In the manga, or I think it was the novel, the main character wanted Melty to be executed, but Melty's mother convinced the Shield Hero just to forgive her or something like that, and reluctantly, he had no choice but to let go. But in the anime, when Melty was about to be executed, the Shield Hero comes forward and says, I will forgive her, but she's going to be renamed Bitch. So basically the main character of Rise of the Shield Hero saved the main character's life in the anime. Now, ask yourself this. Why the heck would they change this? In the novel or the manga, he wants her dead, but in the anime, he's the one who spares her life. And that's simple. It's because they can't show the good guy doing bad things. The main protagonist, or the good guy, can't be shown in any negative light, like, oh, he doesn't lower himself to the bad guy's level. And the reason why they do this is because, well, basically, kids, teenagers, and sometimes adults can see themselves as the characters, or the characters are influence on people. Like, let me give you guys an example of something. There was people back in the day who loved Dragon Ball Z, and still does, and when people watch Dragon Ball Z, there would be kids doing the Kamehameha, well, I mean, pretending to do the Kamehameha, and doing the Kaioken, and heck, Dragon Ball Z also got teenagers and adults into training or exercising, and that's exactly the point. Media influences people, and that's the reason why they changed the protagonist from Rise of the Shield Hero in the anime. They don't want people to lower themselves to bad people's level, and you can see this in most anime, because when it comes to anime, the majority of the time, most of the time, the protagonist can be seen doing things immoral, or oh, she or he can't be seen as a bad person, or oh, they can't be seen lowering themselves to the bad guys level. Like, the main good guys can't be seen doing anything bad, and bad people always gets their comeuppance in the end. And this is the majority of stories. Like, there always has to be this crystal clear right and wrong when it comes to stories. Now, I know what some people are going to say. They're going to say, oh, come on, Friggy, you're overthinking things again. Oh yeah? Let me introduce you guys to a Star Wars controversy from the first Star Wars movie, 1977. Now, in this movie, there was a scene with Han Solo in the original film. He was having this meeting with this guy called Greedo, and then one thing leads to another, and Han Solo shot dead Greedo. But in later versions, this scene was edited to make it look like that Greedo was going to shoot Han Solo, and this in turn would give Han Solo justification for self-defense. And the only reason they did this is because they didn't want Han Solo to look like a bad person that would just shoot anybody that he didn't like. And this was all because they wanted to make Han Solo look justified in killing someone. And that's exactly the problem when it comes to today's media, especially when it comes to Japan. The majority of the time, the characters have to be seen in a crystal clear right and wrong, like the main protagonist can't be seen doing anything immoral, but they're still the good guys. And again, just like the Hays Code, if somebody is the bad guy, they can't be seen in a good light. Like, if you do something bad, then you're bad. There's no grey area. And listen, don't get me wrong, there are stories out there that has a moral grey, and you're gonna have good guys doing bad things, like what Han Solo did when he shot first. And you're gonna have antagonists who is justified on hating the main character, like with Enshi from Rurouni Kenshin. I mean, yeah, sure, Enshi isn't a main character, but you could say that he is justified on wanting to take Kenshin's life. Now, if you guys still think I'm crazy, then let's go back to the West and have a look at something else. Let's have a look at a movie called Demolition Man. Now, when it comes to the main cast, Sylvester Stallone is the protagonist, and Wesley Snipes is the bad guy, and his name is Simon Phoenix. And Simon Phoenix has done a lot of evil stuff, killing people, killing hostages, destroying property, drug-related stuff. Simon Phoenix has done a lot of horrible things, and Sylvester Stallone's character, John Spartan, who is a cop, takes down Simon Phoenix at the end of the movie, which, by the way, I highly recommend you guys go and check out Demolition Man. Now, when it comes to Demolition Man, you will never ever see anything like this on the big screen ever again. I mean, not in terms of what the movie is about, but the fact of what Wesley Snipes is playing as. Wesley Snipes is the bad guy within Demolition Man, and again, he has done a lot of horrible stuff within the movie, and it was John Spartan who was the one who put him down. And that's exactly it. You will never ever see anything like this in any movie ever again, or a series ever again, or see a black character do horrible, evil things with no sympathy, or, oh, he's misunderstood. Simon Phoenix doesn't have a good bone in his body. He was an absolute monster, and Simon Phoenix is the only evil black character that has no sympathy at all whatsoever. He was just a downright bad guy, and it was a white guy who took down Simon Phoenix. So let me ask you guys something. When was the last time you ever saw an evil black character or characters in a movie, or it depicted either black characters or Native Americans or Aboriginals or any marginalised group doing anything bad? I mean, back in the day when movies like Demolition Man was being brought out, you did see black villains and good guy white guys taking them down. I mean, yeah, they weren't in every single movie, but these sort of movies did exist. But these days, you rarely even see that. But even if you do see a POC who is a bad guy, they're either, oh, they're misunderstood, or, oh, nobody understands them. But we always see a white bad guy. These days, it's taboo showing POCs or minorities as the bad guys, or showing POCs or minorities doing anything bad. I mean, especially in the SJW woke era. And that's exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to media. Like, certain characters have to be a crystal clear right and wrong. You're not allowed to show POCs or minorities or women as bad guys. You're not allowed to show certain things or complicated things in Asia, or specifically in Japan. Like, you rarely see the Japanese as the bad guys when they're fighting, or as a rivalry with other countries. Like, the Japanese are the poor sad little victims, and everybody else is the bad guys, or they're racist, or, oh, the non-Japanese are being jerks to the Japanese, like in Code Geass. The Britannians were those evil monsters that invaded the world and colonized Japan, even though in real life, Japan colonized places and invaded places like Indonesia, the Philippines, Korea, freaking China, getting comfort girls from those places and using enemy soldiers as test subjects in Unit 731. Or there was the rape in Nanking, or there was the bombing of Pearl Harbor, and loads of other horrible stuff that was going on during the time of the Empire of Japan. Japan can also be xenophobic. They've got an horrible history, they've colonized, they've invaded, they've killed people. But all these things that they did in the past, they are never ever taught in schools or in colleges, or they even shown on TV. In fact, it's forbidden to even talk of what was going on during the time of the Japanese Empire. But when it comes to the West, we are always told how freaking terrible the West is. Like slavery and invading other places and colonizing and saying how white people are terrible. People are taught this in schools, colleges, and even in media. We're always told that, oh, how white people are evil and dangerous, and oh, they did all these evil things in the past. But when it comes to the West has done a lot of good things for the world too. The British ended slavery, the British ended barbaric practices, they brought the whole world into the modern day. They brought medicine, education, industry. The British did a lot of great things, but saying that, the British also did some bad stuff too. Like, look what we did to the Irish, look what we did to India. Yeah, I refuse to be one of those people who says, oh, we didn't do anything wrong to the Irish or the country of India, and a fair few other things. And I'm not going to make excuses for what we did, because this is what the left always does all the time. They're always lying, they're always making up things, they rewrite history, and they're always telling people, oh, it's always the British's fault, or oh, it's the white man's fault. The British had slavery, oh, the British in colonized places, oh, the British did this, the British did that. But when it comes to anime fans, all I've ever heard is saying, oh, Japan is such a beautiful place, oh, Japan has such a wonderful culture, oh, Japan get us some great media. And whenever somebody brings up the bad things that Japan did in the past, I've been hearing people say, oh, well, you know, that happened a long time ago, yeah, let's just drop it. Let's forgive and forget, But let me ask you guys something. What has Japan ever done for us in a positive light? Again, we are told the West is terrible in classrooms, in media. We are told of all the horrible things that we did in the past, but the West has also done great things in the past too. Stopping barbaric practices, stopping slavery, bringing in industry, bringing in education and medicine. But what has Japan given us? besides from media and anime. Again, they don't talk about all the bad things that they did in the past. They don't talk about all the colonizing that they did in the past and what they did in World War II. They don't teach their citizens of all the bad things that Japan did in the past. I mean, when the West does something good, everybody just glances over it or pretend that it never happened of all the good things that we did. But when it comes to Japan, and most other countries, they don't teach about the bad things that they did in the past. I mean, heck, look at Turkey. They denied the Armenian genocide, for crying out loud. Okay, let me give you guys another example. Let's have a look at the series Naruto. Now, if you're a Naruto fan, you know what's happening. But when it comes to newcomers, well, basically, it's about this kid who has a demon inside of him and he wants the respect of everybody in the village. And he has a friend called Sasuke and Sakura. And Sasuke wants revenge on his brother because of what his brother did to his clan, leaving him the only Uchiha. And so one thing leads to another. Sasuke leaves the village. Naruto tries to get him back, but failed. And in the next series, we find out after Sasuke killed his brother, Sasuke finds out that his brother actually killed the Uchiha under the orders of the village elders because the Uchiha wanted to take over the village. And the reason why the Uchiha wanted to do this is because the village put the Uchiha in a corner of the village so they could keep an eye on them. And the village didn't trust the Uchiha because when the Nine Tails attacked, all the Uchiha was in a meeting and the village suspected that it was the Uchiha who was controlling the Nine-Tailed Fox to destroy the village. And while the other ninja was trying to fight off the Nine-Tailed Fox, there was no Uchiha on the battlefield trying to fight off against the Nine-Tails. So those are the two things that they suspected that the Uchiha was responsible for the Nine-Tails. Number one, a Uchiha can control the tail beast with their eyes. And number two, there was no Uchiha defending the village. And the thing is, the Uchiha knew nothing about. In fact, it was another character named Obito who was a Uchiha. And he wanted to either get the Nine-Tails or he wanted to destroy the village or something, I can't remember, but Obito was the reason as to why they suspected it was the Uchiha. So after the Nine-Tails attacked the village and the 4th Hokage stopped the Nine-Tails, this is when everybody started to distrust the Uchiha. And this suspicion made the Uchiha angry and sick and tired of the abuse of what they were getting from the village. The Uchiha started to plan a coup which would in turn destroy half the village. And if that happened, that in turn would make other villages attack the Leaf Village if they was weak enough. And that was something that the village didn't want. And it was Itachi who relayed all this information to the village elders. And with left with no choice, Itachi was told to kill the Uchiha. And also, there's this one character called Danzo that never trusted the Uchiha, all because of his lessons from the 2nd Hokage. And he was one of the elders that says, okay, go and kill the Uchiha. Anyways, Itachi spared Sasuke because Itachi loved his little brother, and he blackmailed the elders, saying, if you touch my little brother, I will tell the other villagers about your secrets. And he even asked the 3rd Hokage to protect Sasuke. And after hearing the story about Itachi and his mission and the Uchiha, Sasuke wanted revenge on the village because of what they did to his clan and his brother, and Danzo wanted Sasuke assassinated. So Sasuke joined the Akatsuki, which is this group that's trying to capture all the Nine-Tailed beasts, and they're on the most wanted list and they've done some terrible things. And since Sasuke joined the Akatsuki, Sasuke tried to kidnap Killer Bee, which is the Jinchuriki of the Egg-tailed beasts, and he fought the Cloud Hokage and he was fighting the other Hokage, and this in turn made Sasuke an international criminal. And Naruto is really upset about this. His friends want him dead, other villagers want him dead, the Leaf Village wants him dead, and you have everybody telling Naruto, oh, Sasuke is a lost cause, forget about him. And then Naruto finds out the truth, alongside Yamamoto and Kakashi, that the reason why Sasuke joined the Akatsuki was because of what the village did. And you know what? This leaves a lot of things very complicated, because nobody else knows as to why Sasuke was doing what he was doing. Everybody just turned his back on him. Even Kakashi, even though he found out as to why Sasuke was doing what he was doing, Kakashi wanted to kill Sasuke, and Naruto stopped Kakashi from killing Sasuke. And you know what? This leaves Naruto in a very complicated situation, because even though Kakashi and Yamamoto knew with Sasuke and the Uchiha, all Kakashi saw was somebody who wanted to destroy the village and kill his former comrades, instead of trying to talk it out. And yeah, I know Kakashi gave Sasuke plenty of chances to give up. The thing is, Kakashi's priority was always to protect the village, and he didn't see it from Sasuke's point of view as to what he's lost. Anyways, one thing leads to another. Even though the entire world has turned against Sasuke, except for Naruto, Sasuke meets up with Itachi again, and then they fight Kabuto, and then after that they resurrect the Hokage. And for some reason, after listening to the Hokage's story, Sasuke says that he wants to be Hokage so he can protect the village. Okay, if you guys want to go and check out as to why Sasuke hates the village and he came to this conclusion to protect it and so on and so on, please go and check it out on YouTube. Anyways, I think I know what they were doing with this storyline when it comes to Sasuke. It was to convince the audience that you should let go of the past and not hate people for what happened in the past. And you know what? This really bugs me, because here's the thing. We're led to believe that Konoha, or the Leaf Village, is supposed to be this really nice place where everybody got along and everybody was happy and blah 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 blah. But the thing is, this series don't show you all the horrible stuff that ninjas have done to each other in the past. Like for example, there was Gaara's speech, but before the speech, we had all these ninjas arguing with each other, saying, "Oh, look what your people did to us," or "Oh, you ninja killed my father." "Oh, this village that was once our comrades betrayed us." I mean, there was the Cloud Village and the Leaf Village pact thing, where they decided to stop fighting. But all this was a ruse, so they would drop their guard. So one of the ninjas from the Cloud Village can kidnap one of the Yuga clan's children that has the Byakugan. And the Cloud Village was only angry because their Cloud Village ninja was killed, and they refused to believe of what the Cloud Ninja did by kidnapping a child. And there was also the time when the Sun Village betrayed the Leaf because of Orochimaru. And there was all sorts of things going on. "Oh, you killed my father. Oh, my brothers died because of you." Blah blah blah. Yeah, that sort of stuff. What I'm trying to say is, how do you think the people from the Leaf Village, and I mean everybody, would feel after if they found out the truth about what happened with the Uchiha? That it was just a misunderstanding, and they found out the reason as to why Sasuke joined the Akatsuki, and why Itachi killed the Uchiha, and why the Uchiha turned against the village, and why the Nine-Tailed Fox attacked the village, and why the Uchiha wasn't there to protect it. Because remember, an audience is influenced by media, and when Sasuke made his decision to protect the village instead of destroying it, this in turn will make the audience in Japan think that this is the right thing to do. Because when it comes to today's media, and people telling people of all the bad stuff that they've done in the past, like slavery and colonizing and so on, you're going to have people who belong to certain groups who will feel bad of what their ancestors did in the past, like giving the story of, "Oh, the white man came into Africa and they kidnapped and enslaved all those poor black people," and white kids or white teenagers in those countries will feel bad because they were given a one-sided story, and they feel guilt of what their people or what their country or what their race did in the past. But when it comes to this, of Sasuke and his decision of wanting to protect the village, I can assume that this is what the creators wanted. Because if you guys really think about it, how do you think the village is going to feel of what the third Hokage did? How do you think they're going to feel about the Uchiha? The fact that this was just a big massive misunderstanding, and the fact they had to kill one of the most powerful clans. Because let's just say for example that everybody in the village knew what happened, and they found out from Naruto as to why it happened, that the village was suspicious of the Uchiha, but they didn't actually do anything. This would cause conflict, mistrust, and division in the village. Some people in the village will feel guilt about it because it was just a misunderstanding. Some people would see it as justice because the Uchiha tried to take over the village. But mostly, some people might actually feel guilt. And I think that was the reason as to why they didn't want any of the people who was watching Naruto to feel that. The feel of guilt. Now, I know what some people are going to say. You're going to say, "Oh, come on, Freaky. That sounds incredibly stupid." Again, media is always manipulating us into believing certain things and to feel certain things. Like, for example, you know Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ? When that movie came out, there was Jews who watched the movie and actually felt bad of what happened to Jesus in that movie. Or here's another example. The movie John Rabe was about how the Japanese did a lot of horrible stuff towards the Chinese, and John Rabe, the person in real life and in the movie, was protecting the Chinese from the Japanese. And when the movie was shown in Japan, there was loads of nationalists who condemned the film and said, "Oh, it never happened, it's all propaganda, it's all lies." And there has been Japanese who actually felt bad of what the Japanese did in World War II, like what they did in Korea, Indonesia, the Philippines, China. And these people, the Japanese people, who felt bad about of what Japan did to all these places, they wanted the truth to come out, and they wanted to tell people of what happened during World War II and the occupation of these other countries. And I think there was this video made by Tim Pool. I can't remember which one it was, but Tim Pool was telling a story about a woman who was German, who was looking into her ancestry and German's history. And when she found out about all the horrible stuff that the Germans did in World War I and II, this woman wanted to separate herself from her own ethnicity, which is German, and she would follow other people's ethnicities that's in her blood. Like, you know those DNA test things where you would have DNA come from anywhere? Like, you might have a little bit of Asian, you might have a little bit of Irish, etc, etc, etc. And because of all the horrible stuff that the Germans did in the past, this German woman wanted to separate herself from Germany, and she wanted to be someone else. And that's exactly the point. This whole thing with Sasuke is basically telling people to just hide the past, blame somebody else, and never talk about it ever again. It's the same with Code Geass, where Euphemia was killed by Zero because she was killing Japanese. And then later on, in the second season, the Knights found out about the truth, that it was all Zero's doing, or what happened at the safe zone. But instead of coming out and saying, "Oh, it was all Zero's doing," they decided to keep it a secret because it would make them lose credibility. I mean, think about it. The very person who everybody looked up to was the very person who killed the Japanese. How do you think the Japanese are going to feel about Yuffie's death and it was all Zero's fault? Again, you'll have divisions. Some people might not believe it, some people will believe it. People will still side with Zero, some people will go against Zero. But even at the end of the series, Lelouch has this really stupid idea about how he'll spill so much blood that everybody will forget about Yuffie. And you know what? That was the most stupidest idea I've ever heard in my freaking life. This was just some half-assed idea just to make everybody at home who's watching Code Geass feel better about Yuffie's death. Like, oh well, Lelouch spilled so much blood and now everyone's forgot about her. Was just a lazy ass way just to make people feel better. Again, a very stupid plan. Again, when was the last time you ever saw the Japanese make documentaries about their colonizing, their invasions, their accurate thoughts about what they did in the war? You barely see it. It's illegal to ever even talk about this because they don't want people to feel bad about themselves. They don't want people to want to separate themselves from Japan. I mean, heck, there's a series called Ranking of Kings, and there has been some very controversial stuff with this series. Okay, basically, in this series, there were these wizards who went to this kingdom, and when they visited this kingdom, they made the kingdom very nice. They helped people, they built great buildings, and they was teaching the people of this kingdom to be good people. But this kingdom, which I'll call the Kuza Kingdom, the people there were very horrible people, and they would take advantage of these wizards, even though the wizards were trying to ally themselves with the Kuza Kingdom and help them and all that stuff. And then the Kuza Kingdom betrayed the wizards, and they sided with their enemies, and they did a lot of horrible stuff. This one little girl. You guys will have to go and look up for yourselves. But what I'm trying to say is, there's been some controversy when it comes to this because people have been saying that the Kuza Kingdom and the Wizards Kingdom is an allegory for Korea and Japan. Like, the Japanese are the wizards who was trying to help these people, and the people from Kuza, who are these evil people, are the Koreans. So basically, what I'm saying is, the Japanese, when they started to go over to Korea, they wanted to help those poor Koreans, but these people were evil and bad, and they treated those poor Japanese like crap. Yeah, it was that allegory. You know, stuff like that. And allegories can be seen all the time, in movies, shows, games. You just need to know where to look. But when it comes to anime now, they try to make it as tame as possible, with good morals, and try to teach people not to do this or not to do that. Now this can be a double-edged sword when it comes to teaching good morals to kids, teenagers, adults. I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. One of the greatest things about anime is that anime inspires you in its stories. Anime inspires you, makes you cry. Anime makes you laugh. Anime these days have some really great qualities to them in terms of their lessons. Standing up for yourself, the lines between right and wrong, being the bigger man, try your absolute damnedest to win, and never give up. Be more open-minded. Be proud of who you are. Be thoughtful. Try and find a better way of doing things. And this is something that you don't see in the West. Like, if you were to compare of the cartoons and animations that we have now in the West compared to anime today, the lessons in anime blows the Western world crap right out the water. Because when it comes to anime is always telling people, push your artist, don't give up. But when it comes to Western animation, it's just world crap. And if you're a white straight male, then you're evil. So yeah, anime does give us some great lessons. If I was to have any kids, I will let them watch the good anime and not this world crap that's in the West. But at the same time, that also ruins the story. Okay, let me explain. When it comes to stories, we always want stories to end the way we want them to. Like, everything has to end in a nice little bow at the end. And even the storytellers of these stories know that too. But at the same time, it's something that we shouldn't expect in terms of what we want. Like, you want the bad guy to get his comeuppance in the end. You want certain characters to end up with certain characters. You want the characters you like to live, and you want the characters that you don't like to die. In movies and series, we always want things to go our way, and that's exactly the problem, because if we're always given everything the way we want them, then we wouldn't get anything new. We would just get the same storylines over and over and over, and that in turn won't stimulate our minds. For me, I like to be challenged when it comes to stories. In fact, I think most people should be challenged when it comes to stories. Like telling people, you can't always have your own way, and your favourite character is going to be wrong, and some characters aren't going to end up with characters you like, and people you dislike isn't going to get their comeuppance. Now listen, I'm all for good morals and karma and all that stuff when it comes to stories, but sometimes good morals and karma and the things that we want to go doesn't always happen. If not most of the time, it doesn't happen in real life. That things just doesn't go our way. And I think that's one of the reasons as to why we want things to go our way in stories. It's either because of our crappy lives, or because of our morality, or because we think certain characters should be with other certain characters, because we think they are great for each other. And we don't want the bad guy to win. We don't want the good guy to lower himself to the main bad guy's level, and we want them to have that happily ever after in the end. Because depending on the person, when it comes to stories going our way, it makes us feel that all is right in the world, and it's the way that things should be. And along the way, we learn good values and morals, and everything just ends up perfect. And that is the double-edged sword. Sure, it's nice that we get that happily ever after in the end, and everything went the way we want them to, and there has been loads of cases of people going absolutely nuts saying that fans went mad and they burned the books or burned the manga of the stories that they was following. There were loads of cases like this in real life of fans going to burning their books or manga, or even sending threatening letters to the creator of the series, all because the story didn't go their way. Heck, I'm pretty sure there's been stories out there where people stalk the creators of a series, or even try to hurt them, or does the unthinkable to that person. That's how crazy people can be when a story doesn't go their way. I mean, heck, there's a Stephen King movie called Misery, and this story of film Misery is about this author that gets in an accident, and this woman found him, and she helped him, and as thanks, the author lets this woman read his work. And when she did read his work, she went absolutely bonkers because a character that she liked was going to die in his story. And she forces him to rewrite the story, and she makes sure that the story is up to her standard. And to make sure that he doesn't escape, she breaks his freaking legs or feet. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if there was people out there that actually do this. That is scary. But you know what? In my opinion, I think it's healthy for us to experience these sort of stories of where things can't always go our way. That our favourite character isn't going to win, or our favourite characters are going to be wrong, or we're going to have an ending like Stephen King's The Mist. And you know what? That's okay, because life works in mysterious ways, and so do stories. Life is unpredictable, and stories should be unpredictable too. And I think that's why most people want to see things go their way in movies, is because in stories you can have things go the way you want them to, but that solely depends on the author. Like for example, there's this movie called Deep Blue, and it's basically about these scientifically advanced sharks that's going all around this space killing everybody. And when it comes to the end of the movie, the scientist sacrifices her life so the shark can't escape. But that wasn't the original ending, because the original ending was supposed to have the main hero and the female scientist who created the shark, or sharks, win and get together at the end. But the movie was put through test audiences first, and the test audience didn't like the fact that the female scientist lived in the end, because she was the one responsible for creating these sharks in the first place. So they changed it around so that the female scientist would die. And here's another one. There's this fan-made story called Dragon Ball Multiverse, and basically it's about all the characters, all the villains, all the heroes from different timelines participating in this tournament. Cell, Frieza, King Cold, Cooler, Majin Buu, Fat Buu, Vegito, like everybody's here. And there's this new character called Sombra, and she's the daughter of Vegito. And there's a lot of people who do not like the character of Sombra simply because of what she did in her past. Well, basically, when she transforms into a Super Saiyan, she can't control it, especially Super Saiyan 2. And in her past, she destroyed a planet, she killed many people. Well, actually, you know what, the thing is, it would take me a long time to explain what's going on. But anyways, there was a huge controversy back in the day where Sombra was taken over by Bobbidi, and she started killing people in the stadium. And after being talked down to by Bob Reeves, Sombra actually felt guilty of what she did. And then when Vegito found out, he actually wanted to kill his own daughter for what she did. But another character called Gast stopped Vegito from killing her, and everybody was giving Vegito a lecture saying, oh, you shouldn't kill your daughter, oh, you shouldn't kill your daughter. And the fans went absolutely nuts. And the reason why they went absolutely nuts is because Sombra got off scot-free without any punishment. I mean, it was so bad that one of the moderators from the English-speaking fanbase actually left the Dragon Ball Multiverse website because Sombra didn't get punished for what she did. And loads of people wasn't happy because of this decision. But as for me, I made 2 videos saying as to why Sombra didn't do anything wrong. So I was one of those people who actually defended Sombra, and I made my case within those 2 videos. So if you guys want to go and check out on my channel that Sombra didn't do anything wrong, please go and check them out. And here's another example. There's also the Korean movie Hide and Seek. Okay, basically, there's this killer going around killing people, and the main character of the movie is supposedly the killer's brother, and the killer wants revenge on the brother because he framed him for a crime that he didn't commit, because the stepbrother didn't like the way the brother looked, because he had scabs and he had zits or something like that, and he told the police that he did something bad, and he was disowned by the family, and the stepbrother took everything from the biological son and framed him for a crime they didn't commit. And so the son is disowned by the family, and the main character takes everything that was supposed to belong to the stepbrother, and so the stepbrother wants to take revenge on his brother that took away everything that belonged to him. But later in the movie we find out that the brother's been dead this whole time, and guess what? The main character doesn't get any punishment, and the stepbrother dies, and is disowned by the family who thinks he did something bad, and the parents of the biological son who was framed. They die believing that their son was a criminal, and the biological son dies, and the main character gets his happily ever after. And you don't want that. I mean, I freaking hated the main character that did that to his brother. But hey, it's all part of the story, right? And you know what? That's something that I can appreciate. And again, there's movies like The Mist, where the father kills his own kid, so he would be spared being eaten by these monsters. But the army comes in a few seconds later, and he killed his son all for nothing. Yeah, it was a sad ending. But these are the sort of movies that needs to exist, because these sort of movies are cautionary tales, or they're there to keep you on your toes. And you know what? I respect and appreciate these sort of movies and stories that challenge me. But you'll also get movies and series that just downright brainwashes you, like Palestine's children's series, Tomorrow's Pioneers, where they teach Muslim children to hate the Jews and the Christians and all their supporters. I mean, come on, brainwashing is wrong. The whole point of this video was for you guys to think for yourselves and to watch out for propaganda and one-sided biases, and to see things from a different point of view, and to embrace that things aren't always going to go your way when it comes to a story. That was the whole reason as to why I made this video, and I hope you guys can appreciate that. So yeah, that's all I gotta say. So what do you guys think? Am I right? Am I wrong? Do you like being challenged, or do you not like being challenged in stories? Please let me know in the comments below, and let's get a discussion going. I'm Freaky. Peace out. And please don't forget to check out my other social medias. Please go and check out my alternative video platforms, Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Twitch, and please come and hang out on my Discord server. We can play games, have a movie night or a series night, or you can watch me play a few games. And if you guys have any suggestions of any videos you want me to react to, or any video ideas in general, you can tell me on my Discord. I'm also on Twitter, Gab, Getter, and Paula. I'm on Locals, Tumblr, Minds, and if you guys want to support me, please go and check out my Subscribestar. It's like Patreon, but better. All these things are in the description box below, so please go and check them out and subscribe to them. I'm Geek Freak. Peace out.